At my anniversary party, my husband's phone started buzzing nonstop. I picked it up, answered the call, and a woman on the other end said, "Hey babe, can you talk?" I smiled and said, "Sure," in front of our whole family. I'm a 42-year-old woman from Charleston, South Carolina. I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 15 years. We have 2 kids, a house, and what I thought was a stable life. Mark is a financial advisor, and I work part-time at a local boutique. For our 15th anniversary, I planned a party at our home. We invited close friends and family. The house was filled with laughter, the aroma of Southern cuisine, and the clinking of glasses. Mark was the life of the party, sharing stories and making everyone laugh. I felt content, believing we had built a beautiful life together. As the evening progressed, I noticed Mark's phone buzzing repeatedly on the kitchen counter. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked it up. The screen displayed a call from Lena. Assuming it was a work-related call, I answered. "Hey babe, can you talk?" a woman's voice said. I paused, heart pounding. "Sure," I replied, in front of our whole family. There was silence on the other end before the call disconnected. I turned to Mark, holding up his phone. "Care to explain who Lena is?" The room fell silent. Mark's face turned pale, and he stammered, "She's just a colleague." I wasn't convinced. I handed him the phone and walked out of the room, the weight of betrayal settling in. That night, I couldn't sleep. I waited until Mark was asleep and then checked his phone. What I found shattered me. There were countless messages between him and Lena, filled with affection and plans to meet. Photos, too, selfies of them together, intimate moments captured without a care. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could he do this to me? To our family? The next morning, I confronted him. He admitted to the affair, claiming it was a mistake, that he still loved me. But the damage was done. I packed a bag and left, seeking solace at my sister's house. I needed time to think, to process everything. In the weeks that followed, I filed for divorce. Friends and family offered support, some sharing their own stories of betrayal. I realized I wasn't alone. Mark tried to win me back, sending flowers, messages, even showing up at my workplace. But I stood firm. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. I focused on healing, attending therapy, and reconnecting with myself. I rediscovered hobbies I had abandoned, spent time with loved ones, and slowly began to find peace. A year later, I moved into a new home, started a new job, and embraced a new chapter in my life. The pain of betrayal still lingered, but it no longer defined me. I shared my story on Reddit, hoping to help others going through similar experiences. The response was overwhelming, with messages of support and gratitude. I realized that by sharing my journey, I could empower others to find their strength, to know that they are not alone, and that healing is possible. Life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way, but it's how we respond to them that defines us. I chose to rise from the ashes, to rebuild my life on my terms. And in doing so, I found a resilience I never knew I had. I didn't expect to hear from Lena. Not after everything. But about 2 weeks after I moved out, she messaged me on Facebook. I stared at the notification for a good 10 minutes before clicking on it. Her message was simple, "I'm sorry." I didn't know. That made me laugh out loud in a bitter way. She didn't know he was married? Seriously? I typed, "He's been married 15 years. We have kids. House. Life. What exactly didn't you know?" She replied right away. "He told me he was divorced. That you were crazy. That you cheated first." Now my stomach turned. I'd heard of men like this, who rewrite history to justify their actions. But this was something else. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. And I certainly wasn't the one sending babe texts during my anniversary party. I asked her to meet. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to look in her eyes and see if she was telling the truth. We met at a coffee shop downtown, near the waterfront. She was younger than me, maybe early 30s. Pretty in a very filtered Instagram kind of way. When she sat down, she looked nervous. I stayed calm. We talked for an hour. She showed me messages. Mark had really painted a whole picture of me, unstable, manipulative, even abusive. He said I refused to sign divorce papers and was keeping him from his new life. He had a whole story. I almost didn't recognize myself in it. But then came the worst part. She told me she wasn't the only one. There's another woman. I found out last month. That's when I ended things. She handed me a screenshot of a chat he had with someone named Vanessa. There were messages from 2 weeks before our anniversary. Compliments. Pictures. Plans. The same lines he used on Lena. Even the same emojis. I couldn't breathe. I thought Lena was the betrayal. Turns out, she was just the first one I found. I told her everything, our anniversary, I found out, the call at the party. She looked horrified. She said he'd even promised to propose to her once the divorce was final. that he wanted more kids, that he'd taken her to Myrtle Beach for a weekend and told her he was looking for a house there. I was shaking. 15 years, and I had no idea who I was really married to. When I got back to my sister's house, Mark was there, sitting on the front steps with flowers in his lap. He stood up when he saw me and said, "We need to talk." I wanted to scream. I wanted to slap the flowers out of his hands. But instead, I said, "You mean with me, Lena, or Vanessa? Which one are you trying to get back today?" His eyes widened. Then he got angry. Not sad. Not sorry. Angry. "You've been talking to her? She messaged me. She thought I should know who I married." He stepped closer, voice low. "You don't know what you're doing." I said, "No, Mark. You don't. You thought you could juggle 3 women and a whole life built on lies. But it's falling apart now." He stormed off, threw the flowers on the lawn, sped away in his car like a teenager throwing a tantrum. Later that night, Lena messaged again. Said she was thinking of going to the police. Apparently, Mark had lied about more than just us. He borrowed money from her, said he needed it for a custody battle. Thousands. Promised to pay it back. Never did. Now she wanted to press charges. And I suddenly realized I might be in more danger than I thought. This wasn't just a cheating husband. This was a man who built a web of lies so big, even he might not know the truth anymore. I went to the police the next morning. Not to press charges, not yet. But to start a report. Just in case. And the officer said something that chilled me to my core. "You're not the first woman to walk in here with his name." Now, I don't know what's real. I don't know if anything about my marriage was ever real. I don't know what he's capable of. But I'm starting to think I only scratched the surface. After I left the police station, I couldn't get those words out of my head. "You're not the first woman to walk in here with his name." I didn't ask for details then. I was too numb. But the next day, I went back. I told them I needed to know everything they could legally tell me. The officer, Detective Harris, pulled me into a back room, closed the door. He had a folder already open. Turns out, Mark had a sealed report from 6 years ago. A woman in Greenville filed a complaint against him for harassment and financial fraud. She dropped it before charges were made. They were dating, but he convinced her to invest in a business venture that never existed. She was too embarrassed to follow through on prosecution. I sat there stunned. 6 years ago? That meant we were still married. Still raising our kids. Still spending every Christmas with my parents like nothing was wrong. I asked if they had her name. They did. I found her on Facebook. Messaged her. She didn't respond right away. A week passed. Then one night, she replied, "I've been waiting for this message for years." Her name was Rochelle. She lived in Asheville now. We talked on the phone for hours. She told me he was charming, smooth, generous, until money got involved. He convinced her he was separated and needed startup funds to get on his feet after his divorce. She never saw a dime back. Then when she pressed, he started threatening her, said if she ruined his life, he'd ruin hers. She left town. Never looked back. It was all the same. The script. The lies. The guilt. But what she said next chilled me deeper than anything before. "He mentioned you. Not by name. But he said, 'My wife is never gonna leave me. She's too scared to be alone.'" That's when I knew I had to find out everything. I got a lawyer. Not just for the divorce, but to dig deeper into his records. Credit cards. Business accounts. Anything tied to his name. It took a few weeks, but what came back hit hard. Mark had taken out a line of credit using my social security number. He forged my signature. $18,000 in debt, floating under my name. I broke down, called the bank, showed them proof. My lawyers started a fraud claim. But it wasn't easy. It meant opening everything, pulling every statement, every email, every piece of communication we'd ever shared about finances. Meanwhile, the kids started asking questions. They're 10 and 13. Old enough to sense something was wrong. My daughter found an old picture of us in Myrtle Beach and asked, "Was this when you and Dad were happy?" I didn't know what to say. Mark was still texting, still calling, still showing up unannounced. I had to get a restraining order. And, even after that, he found a way. One night, I heard a noise outside my sister's house. I looked out the window. He was standing across the street. Just standing there. Not moving. Not saying anything. I called the police. He was gone by the time they arrived. Detective Harris called me the next day. "We're looking into him. His name's come up in another case. You need to be careful." Another case? A woman in Savannah filed a missing person report on her sister. She had been dating someone named Mark. Matched my husband's photo. They hadn't found her yet. I didn't know what to think. Could he be involved? Or was it just a coincidence? I didn't want to believe it. But the man I married, This charming, loving, doting husband was turning out to be a stranger with secrets darker than I ever imagined. And I wasn't sure where the bottom of this hole was. But I knew I wasn't done falling yet. Detective Harris called again 2 weeks later. His voice sounded different this time, tighter, like he was trying to choose the right words. "We have new information," he said. "You should come in." I sat in that small police office again, heart pounding, trying to guess what could be worse than what I already knew. Harris slid a photo across the table. It was a woman. She looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her. She was reported missing 2 months ago. Her name's Amanda Reese. She was last seen with your husband. We found her body yesterday outside Savannah. My stomach flipped. The room started spinning. I don't know how long I stared at that photo. Amanda. He'd mentioned the name once. Said she was a woman from a seminar. Harris leaned forward. We can't confirm anything yet, but his car was spotted near the area. We also found texts. And the timeline overlaps with your anniversary party. I couldn't speak. My mind was racing, flashing through years of smiles, vacations, shared meals, wondering where he'd been hiding this darkness. We're not saying he did it, the detective said, but we think he knows more than he's saying. I left the station shaking. I called Lena. Told her everything. She cried. Said she'd be willing to testify if it came to that. Rochelle, too. We were no longer just exes or broken hearts. We were witnesses now. Then came the fundraiser night. My friend Mia was hosting a community event for the school library. I debated going, but I knew I had to stop hiding. I wore black. I looked strong. Or at least I tried to. I didn't expect Mark to show up. But he did. Walked in like nothing was wrong. Smiled at people. Shook hands. Acted like a loving, stable man just trying to win back his wife. I felt the room freeze when our eyes met. Mia noticed, pulled me aside. Should I ask him to leave? I said no. I wanted him there. When the silent auction started, I took the mic. I hadn't planned on speaking, but I couldn't hold it in anymore. I wasn't going to say anything tonight. But someone important to me is here. Someone who's been living 2 lives. Maybe more. Mark froze across the room. People turned. I kept going. I thought I knew him. He was my husband. My partner. But behind the charm and the smiles, there were lies. Affairs. Fraud. And now, maybe worse. He took a step forward, shaking his head. Babe, not here. I raised my voice. Don't you dare call me that. People started whispering. My sister stepped closer to me, protective. I pointed at Mark. You took money. Lied to women. Manipulated all of us. And now there's a woman dead in Savannah. And your name is all over it. Gasps. Murmurs. His face went pale. I gave you 15 years. You gave me nothing but betrayal and danger. He started to speak. You don't know the whole story. I know enough. He turned and stormed out, pushing past guests. Someone called the police. Mia hugged me. My daughter, who had come with my sister, stood at the edge of the room, tears in her eyes. I walked to her, dropped to my knees. I'm sorry, baby. She nodded, wrapped her arms around me. I know it's not your fault. The next day, Mark was arrested. Not for murder, yet, but for identity fraud, harassment, and financial theft. Amanda's case is still open. But now they're digging deeper, and more women are coming forward. I spent the next few weeks in a fog, grieving, angry, but weirdly relieved. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. I was right to dig, right to speak. Lena sent flowers. Rochelle wrote me a thank you letter. My sister took the kids on a weekend trip to the mountains so I could breathe. In the quiet, I sat on my porch, staring at the trees. I thought about the woman I was. The one who thought a buzzing phone at a party was just a harmless thing. The one who thought love could cover everything. I was wrong. But I'm not broken. He took a lot from me. Years. Trust. Safety. But I'm still here. Still standing. I've filed for full custody. Changed my last name. Started working full-time. I even signed up for a pottery class. I don't know why. I just needed to feel my hands make something. One night, my son asked me, will Dad be okay? I paused. Then said, I don't know. But we will.